All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful parable, a little story that might just flip the way you think about effort, struggle, and even surrender. So let's get right into it. I want you to start by thinking about this. You know that feeling? That deep in your bones kind of tired that just doesn't make any sense? You got a full night's sleep, you've rested, but you wake up feeling like you just ran a marathon? Well, that exact feeling is right at the heart of our story. So there's this man, and he's suffering from this awful fatigue. He finally goes to a psychiatrist and tells him that every single night he's trapped in the exact same, really troubling dream. In this dream, he finds himself standing at the very entrance to heaven. All that's separating him is this big glass door. And all night long, he does what seems totally logical. He pulls. He strains and he struggles, using every last ounce of his strength, trying to wrench this door open. But by the time morning comes in his dream, he's gotten absolutely nowhere. He just collapses in a heap right there in front of the door, completely spent and totally defeated. And then, of course, he wakes up, carrying that exhaustion with him into the real world. The psychiatrist listens to all this patiently and then asks a really simple question. What was written on the sign on the door? And the man thinks for a second and says, it said in big, bold letters, push. Can you believe it? All of his effort, all that exhaustion, it was all because he was doing the exact opposite of what was required. He kept pulling when the answer was to just push. This whole idea of misplaced effort, it perfectly sets the stage for a really powerful real-world example. Let's take a look at a story that contrasts these two very different approaches, pushing forward with love versus pulling back with calculation. This story puts two of Jesus' disciples, Mary of Bethany and Judas Iscariot, side by side. And in one single moment, they react in completely opposite ways, which just perfectly illustrates this whole push versus pull dynamic we're talking about. So on one side, you have Mary. She does this incredible, almost reckless act of love. She pours this ridiculously expensive perfume all over Jesus' feet. It's an act of total surrender, a push forward in complete devotion. But then on the other side, you've got Judas, and he immediately starts pulling back. He's all about calculating and measuring, and all he sees is waste. His concern isn't love, it's about control, it's about self-interest. Mary gives freely, Judas resists and pulls back. Now, this whole dynamic, it goes way beyond just a parable or an ancient story. It really points to a fundamental spiritual struggle that, honestly, all of us face. Really think about it for a second. How often are we exactly like that man in the dream, standing in front of a door, just exhausting ourselves by pulling and pulling, when the path forward is just a gentle push? Grace and peace and forgiveness, all these things are offered to us freely. But so many times, instead of just accepting them, we create our own struggle. We insist on making things hard when they're actually meant to be simple. So what does this pulling actually look like in our lives? Well, it's clinging to our pride instead of just asking for help. It's holding on tight to resentment when we could be offering forgiveness. It's repeating the same old mistakes over and over, or just being too scared to truly surrender and trust. These are all ways we pull back from the very grace that's being held out to us. And all of this brings us to a final, really personal reflection. Because in the end, it all comes down to the door that's standing right in front of you. So this leaves us to the most important question of all. What's the specific door that you're facing right now? What is that one area in your life where you feel stuck, where you're pulling with all your might and you're just getting more and more exhausted? Maybe for you, it's the door of forgiveness, forgiving someone else, or maybe even forgiving yourself. Perhaps it's the door of trust, finally letting go of that need to control everything. It could be the door of repentance, of finally turning away from a habit that you know is holding you back. Or maybe it's the door of self-giving love, of choosing to be generous like Mary instead of calculating like Judas. The lesson we get from Mary's example is just so profound because it's so simple. Stop measuring, stop resisting, stop pulling back. Instead, just start loving. Just start giving freely. The invitation is always there. The sign on the door is clear. The real question is, will we finally read it, let go of the struggle, and simply push?